Welcome, everyone. This is the first episode of All Things Last Mile. My name is Mehdi Nayebi. I'm the CEO and co founder of FlashBox. FlashBox is a last mile, same day delivery business we launched back in 2021. We've been working hard to get a number of partners up and running with us on the platform, including eShipper. So today, our inaugural episode is with our friends at eShipper and with Imtiaz, who will kindly introduce himself. And yeah, afterwards, we're going to open up the conversation and cover a number of topics that a lot of us have been dealing with, including the supply chain issues, staffing, the increase of fuel prices, the e-commerce boom that we've witnessed in the past couple of years, and the challenges and the opportunities it has created for us. And of course, we're going to look at the future and what are the big trends influencing our industry. So without further ado, please, Imtiaz, if you can take over and introduce yourself and eShipper, and then we can go back to the general topics.
Absolutely. Good day, everybody, and thank you, Mehdi, for the introduction. So my name is Imtiaz. I have been with eShipper for the last 7 years. eShipper is an 18-year-old brand in the industry, the first of its kind actually in Canada, offering the ability to integrate to your shopping or shipping platforms and bringing together all the major carriers in one screen so our customers and merchants in general are able to compare and contrast against all the different options that they have, and they're empowered to pick and choose the carrier of their choice. Within our organization, we also support and provide services from a last mile delivery to fulfillment and warehousing, first mile or inbound services, whether it's ocean or air freight. And we also provide a service on marketplace enablement for places like Amazon, Walmart, and so on. My role at eShipper is the VP of Sales and Marketing. I manage a team of over 50 sales reps and about 12 marketing individuals. And we provide services and support our customers across all four divisions. So, very excited to get on this podcast with you today, Mehdi, and to talk about what's really going on in the industry and how we can all stay relevant and support our customers to keep scaling their businesses.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Maybe let's start by the topic that's quite prevalent these days in the news. And of course, given the importance of delivery and last mile and general parcel delivery in our economies, have you seen a lot of pressure from your merchants, your customers, when it comes to the types of services you have to offer when it comes to speed? I think one of the topics, of course, that connected you and I was our ability to offer same day delivery. So maybe we just start with this important topic. We know that a lot of the traditional logistics companies are still on a next day, 2 day, 3 day sometimes schedule. How much do you believe same day is a game changer for the industry, specifically, of course, the online retailers? And how far along, if you want, do you think we are in making sure people have understood how much value there is in providing same day delivery services?
Absolutely. So I think speed is generally always favorable. It's where speed meets cost that we have to find the line. And I think merchants that I work with closely on a day-to-day basis have always pulled and pushed us in the direction of speed and to be able to give their customers or their consumers the ability to get their product as fast as possible. A lot of businesses compare themselves to Amazon Prime, and are trying to combat the fact that Amazon Prime has such a fast service. How do I offer that in the marketplace, and how do I ensure that my customers don't go back to Amazon but actually come to my website and purchase from me? So I think the key element to having a same day service from 15, 20, 30 years ago has always been based on cost. Does it make sense for me to pay X amount of money to get my product faster, or do I pay a much lower fee and have it delivered the next day, in 2 days, or in 3 days? And I think where the new entrants that are coming into the market have found that not only can they provide a technology that speaks to a same day type of solution, but also using gig economy drivers and creating a way of being able to really utilize the people in the industry looking for a side income, or drivers who are already doing this but using their own vehicles. And I think that has been a stronghold in bringing together the ability for businesses like FlashBox to be able to offer a service that's not only same day, but extremely affordable, and very much plays into the kind of same supply chain operations as businesses have today. And I think with those key criterias, it is extremely amenable and very easily adapted for customers to get into the same day world and utilize it. I think where the next juncture of same day delivery is going to be on how much or how wide and far you can go on a same day delivery. And that's where I think the next evolution of partnerships and getting into that space is going to be critical, so that same day can become a norm, not just within a 50 or 60-kilometer radius, but also going into new cities, new provinces, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, interestingly, when I when I was pitching FlashBox to our early investors, the first slide I used was Amazon, and how Amazon, and to a much lesser extent, I would say the grocery and food delivery platforms have shifted mind frames and mindsets, right? When it comes to when you order something online, how fast should one expect it to be at the door, whether you're at the office or at home? And generally, this has in a reverse format put enormous pressure on traditional retailers to match the quality, speed, and visibility. We also go back. I mean, there's affordability, there's of course speed, but there's also this constant increase in the expectation from a customer and customer perspective to have full visibility on where the item is at all times. And this also has been an area where a lot of us have been trying to have as clean integrations as possible with various partners, so that end to end the customer sees at every point, at any point in time, where my parcel is. There's this feeling of I need to track live everything that happens with this parcel that I've ordered online. um, let's go to the topic you alluded to. So indeed, how can one expand range while of course we're all bound by a certain number of hours during the day, and we're all of course dependent on traffic conditions and how far physically can one can reach long distance kind of destinations. Of course, there are a lot of discussions about, you must have heard, I think Amazon has finally announced officially the launch of their drone deliveries. And so how much, let's topic let's kind of aggregate that into one important topic. How much do you believe that by using automation, robotics, autonomous deliveries, and new ways of basically mm, condensing however much time we could condense, this would provide us the ability to expand the coverage area? And maybe you can talk a little bit, because you have experience in the fulfillment space, you have experience with, of course, a lot of your existing partners with the delivery space and the physical transport. How much do you believe, this automation and the ability to use some sort of hybrid human slash robotic type of interface can help in this, let's say, next wave?
Yeah, so I think there are two elements to it. I'll first speak from the fact that yes, I own and operate a fulfillment hub on a day-to-day basis, and operationally within the fulfillment space, there are certain times within the day that we are prepping and fulfilling orders. And back to your point about time is finite, right? And if you as a vendor are picking up parcels at 12 noon or 2 p.m., physically and emotionally, there's only a certain amount of time you have to deliver those parcels. I don't want a delivery driver coming to my house past 9 p.m., especially if my kids are asleep or anything like that. And I don't want to be looking out of my door every 5 minutes after 9 p.m. to see if a package has been delivered so it doesn't get stolen by the morning. So I think you're bound by that timing. And I think when it comes to autonomous deliveries or looking at robotics in general, we have to look at, if we take a delivery drone as an example, right? I'm not 100% sure if Amazon's solution is going to be delivering one parcel per drone, or it's going to be that they're going to be consolidating a number of parcels within a drone and delivering it to a hub, at which point from that hub they will be doing final mile deliveries. And I think if they're using one package per drone, the cost impact is going to be high. And also, how many drones can you have in the sky at the same time, right? If I have 10,000 parcels leaving my fulfillment hub on a daily basis, it's physically impossible to have 10,000 drones flying around in the country from one fulfillment hub. Moreover, if we look at operations from a customer's perspective, so we provide a pickup service in the GTA today, and we start our pickup service at 2:30, and we try and get it done by 4:30, so we can have all the parcels at our hub by 5:30 for processing. And the reason we start at 2:30 is because logically, if I'm providing a same day service, that means that the order came in at 9 a.m. and I'm getting the parcel to my customer by 9 p.m. Meaning that if I want to pick up from my customer at 2:30, they must cut off their orders by at least 1:30, or if not 12 noon, which means that they only have those orders up to 12 noon that actually qualify for a same day delivery. So I think that is one key area where technology has to play a part, where we can allow customers to keep fulfilling until a certain point, whether it's 3 p.m. or 4 p.m., allowing them to have more orders that they can actually physically fulfill on a same day basis. So that's point number one. I think point number two is going to have some level of a collaboration. And as we mentioned earlier, drone deliveries are great and it's a great buzzword to have in the industry, but physically, are we stating that a drone is going to deliver one package to one location, or is it going to have the intellectual property that it can take five deliveries, and in the same flight path it has five deliveries to make? So I think once we really understand that, we'll start to become a little bit more savvier on what works and what doesn't. Now, Mehdi, I know that you're currently working with some airline providers, where, for example, they'll be hopping flights across the country for FlashBox to be able to pick up and create that delivery. So if we physically again look at time and say, okay, I want to go all the way to Ottawa, or I want to go to Montreal, those are 1 hour flights. That makes a lot of sense. But going all the way to the end of the country, maybe Vancouver or BC from Toronto, you're looking at a 5-6 hour flight time. By the time you get to the city, get the sorting done, and start your deliveries, you may not have enough time to cover the entire country on a same day. But I think those are where the discussions need to go now, is how do you physically move a whole set of packages to a certain place, and then have your delivery drivers pick up and deliver it in that particular zone or in that particular city?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I mean, while you were talking, I mean, I was of course thinking about our current product offering, and you really, I mean, there's hardly uh, more that we could do in order to compress our delivery times more than what we have today, unless two things, unless one, really we mm, meaningfully increase prices. So that's number one. And two, another topic that I believe will become quite important for all of us in the industry to respect is how environmentally friendly we can be when we want to do these deliveries. And people, I think, are getting more and more aware of this kind of dichotomy. Okay, it's amazing to to put an order on an online, convenience app, as I call them, for you to get delivery of your food or grocery or some of the day-to-day item you might need in your household. But what's the impact, right, in terms of environment? It's very difficult to create a healthy way of doing this job, whether it's on the drivers themselves, and we previously had another company in Middle East where we were a specialist of point to point, and a lot of people were taking risks, right? Even in large cities like Toronto,
Yeah.
people are really rushing to go from one point to the other, and then of course the environmental impact. But uh, on another topic, and again, it's in the industry, you of course, we work in an industry where we have very old players, old school players that have dominated the industry, integrated, I would call them integrated players that do everything from domestic to international. They do everything from air freight to local delivery. They do everything from express to next day, and longer type of time frames. What do you think are the chances for new players in in light of what we just discussed, of course, because customer preferences are shifting. This is creating enormous challenges for established players to be agile. I think agility is another keyword in our industry at this stage. Maybe an industry that hadn't changed for decades suddenly now is PS, the traditional national postal services. So, what is your feeling, especially again as a connector, working with so many different entities? I know you're very much in favor of helping smaller companies like ourselves progress. So, what do you think is at stake? Do you think there is now an opportunity to come and at least a little bit change the status quo? And how do you foresee this happening? And how do you also believe these established incumbent players will react?
Yeah, great question. I think first and foremost, we're seeing the larger players embrace same day. So in the US, we're seeing some acquisitions happening of some of these larger players buying some same day providers and integrating them into their kind of giant system. But where I see the newer players coming in and providing an added value are around things like two-way communication, the ability for a driver to contact a consumer or the final mile delivery part and actually let them know that they're on the way, and providing a level of higher tracking so that as a person who's staying in the house, I'm able to see how far my delivery driver is. In case I might be not be home, I can actually contact them and say, you can leave it here or leave it with my neighbor and so on. So I think communication is a big area. The other area is tracking, as we mentioned. Also, technology. I've onboarded quite a few new players onto the eShipper platform over the last year or two. And one of my key vetting criteria has been on technology. How much of what we already do can a new player do, number one, and what else are you bringing to the market? So when you look at the technology spec of some of these new entrants and new players, because they're starting afresh and they're building their technology on newer languages, they're much more adaptable and they're much more scalable to the small merchant and to businesses that fit within that ecosystem. Finally, I think another big area where the newcomers are doing extremely well is on surcharges. There are certain surcharges that the larger players provide when it comes to, for example, residential surcharge, fuel surcharge, and so on, while some of the newer players are actually eating these costs up because they know that fundamentally their service is going to an end consumer and is built for residential delivery, while some of the older players were not built for residential, they were built for B2B. So from a cost competitive pricing, this is a huge area where the newcomers are coming in and really making sure that they're cost competitive in removing some of these surcharges. But I think cost is only one element. The ability to have great technology, good customer service, and really being able to have that level of communication between the driver and the person at home waiting for their parcels, that's a big game changer. And that's something that consumers are itching for. They really want to be able to have more visibility, more ability to communicate. And I think all of these coming together are creating the perfect storm for some of these new entrants in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. And of course, this is why we are here as well. We believe there are a lot of um, at least technology enabled approaches that will allow us to offer a meaningfully better service. And of course, it also covers the aspects related to pricing by optimizing better the routes, by having, of course, better base technology. We can improve the experience for everyone. One topic, of course, again, we kind of touched upon that a little bit earlier during the conversation, but um, and this is a question I get from most investors and people interested in our business, is how one should deal with labor constraints, labor shortages, labor issues in general, right? In this part of the world, in North America, whether it's on the supply side of driver, whether it's workers, that one needs at the warehousing and fulfillment center level, and generally individuals that still need to do a lot of the manual work. How have you been dealing with it across the spectrum, and how one should differentiate itself in order to attract those individuals and basically create what can now become a competitive advantage?
Yeah, so that's actually a really, really strong topic to discuss. I think as we are all growing, we're finding that we need more and more reliable people. So, as an example, in the fulfillment space, especially during Q4, we had a lot of competition from the likes of Amazon and others that were paying in it was crazy amounts that they were paying, and they were also very cheeky. They were coming right outside of your fulfillment hub and placing posters or placing placards that said, come work for Amazon and you'll get paid X amount. So with the shortage of labor as it is, it really slows down the growth of a company or can impact them negatively. But then you're also facing the fact that other retailers who have a better spending power can come and pick up your individual employees at a better rate, and take them away. And that's an investment because you've actually spent time training these people and so on. So some of the things that we have done, are we've tried to be as innovative as possible when it comes to a benefits package. We work with a lot of students and we provide them a lot of flexibility in hours, in the ability to join lectures online if they need to. And really, we also try and, where we can, fund some of their education through some of their pay structures so that we're able to harness their loyalty. The other big criteria, especially if you're looking at the older parties versus the newcomers, is some of the older guys, being so big, are unionized, and they're handcuffed at what decisions they can make and how fast they can make those decisions. Whilst the newcomers and the smaller players, like us and yourselves, we have the ability to make decisions really, really quickly. We can be nimble and we can actually tailor our offers to people based on what we feel is going to win them in and win them over, right? And keep them for a long, long time. So I think we have some of these tactics, and we have some of these abilities as smaller players to be able to provide that. Outside of that, I think it's very much about culture. At eShipper, we've created a very strong family culture. And yourselves, when you walked into our doors, or when partners and other employees come into the office, they feel at home. They feel the space is great to work in. They're very comfortable, and we provide this level of work and play. So you can take a break and play a game of pool, or you can go out to the golf and putt some balls and things like that. So creating the right environment is, I would say, layer number two, which is really, really important. I think the most and really, really important ultimate reason that eShipper as a business has been able to retain its employees and keep growing at the speed it's growing, is because we create a foundation for growth for our employees. They don't feel like they're stuck in a job role when they come and sit down with us. We organically move people across different areas, different verticals, where we feel like they're going to get better growth from a professional basis, or we find that their skill sets suit another area better. With the innovation and the partnerships and the different types of solutions that we've created in the market, we've been able to have employees move from one area to the other and really help them to get better overall. But more importantly, they never feel bored in a role. It's a very dynamic role, and I think that is a key criteria of why people stay with us. Whilst we may not pay the largest amounts in the industry, they feel like this is home. Ultimately, they're growing, and ultimately they feel like they have a place where it's safe and people have their backs. So I think those all play a really considerable reason for being able to hire the right type of people and keep attracting good talent.
Absolutely, definitely. I totally agree. I will actually bounce back on something you mentioned in your reply, and that was the family part and the fact that your business has been private, kept private, right? Our industry is very prone to M&A, and a lot of transactions have been happening every year. A lot of the incumbents are usually protagonists in these M&As, taking over smaller players across the value chain. You've got a lot of private equity players looking to pick up assets. Again, whether it's from a fulfillment center perspective, delivery companies, software companies. So how come you guys have managed to, or wanted? Why have you stayed independent? I'm sure across the years you've received offers. So what has prompted you to stay independent, and what basically on the back of this, what is the next step for, what are the plans for eShipper? What's the outlook for you?
Great question. So first and foremost, I think one of the key reasons that we've not been acquired or we haven't been up for sale is because we've doubled down on our investment in the business. So year on year, we're investing in more infrastructure, more people, and we truly believe that in order for us to keep our culture and to keep our strength, see, we are a 17-year-old business at eShipper. Whilst we are old enough to be called a mature company, we're still every day working as a startup. We're always looking for gaps in the market and trying to find ways to implement better solutions. Um, our business was bootstrapped from day one, and that has played a clinical role in how we spend our money and where we look for investment. We're also, as a 17, 18-year-old brand, we are cash rich. We've spent years and years refining the way we spend our money and what investments we make. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to be handcuffed based on capital to make decisions that we feel will either help our business grow or help our business become better. And we feel when you do take the step to get investment in order for you to scale your business or to get faster solutions and things like that, you do become you do become you have to now answer to people, right? You become answerable and accountable to an outside organization or an outside stakeholder, which could in turn be positive or negative. So we've really tried to ensure that we can stick to our guns and be strong in what we offer through our own channels. Where do I see the world, or where do I see eShipper going? So we have been fortunate enough to be able to grow globally. We have some great people within our network and our organization that have global experience. So we've got a Canadian entity, which is pretty large. We have a US entity of our own. We've now ventured out into the UAE market, and we want to create a service and a solution for the entire GCC. And the reason we picked UAE is because we have some great people that work with us in the UAE, but we also know that it is not a highlight for some of these larger players to go into. The GCC countries have a very good spending power. They're all adapting to e-commerce over the last 3-4 years. Obviously, with COVID, they've improved and gone forward tenfold. So for us, the biggest thing is having an integrated global solution where we can offer our services in Europe, in the Americas, in the Middle East, in Africa. And so whilst the home market for us is always going to be a key growth area and a key area that we want to keep investing in, we feel that our customers and our businesses are becoming much more savvy at international trade. And with the world becoming smaller and smaller with globalization, we want to be at the front end to be a partner of choice for some of these businesses. So our plans in the coming future are to have multiple fulfillment hubs across the world. And we're just starting our journey into becoming a global brand.
Perfect. I mean, I wish you all the best. But I mean, maybe as a closing topic, as we've expanded the conversation to the world, a topic dear to my heart, as you know, is politics, geopolitics. And so maybe my first question will be, how have the events in Ukraine, the supply chain problems we've witnessed all due to COVID, and of course, very recently the new lockdowns in China, and generally, the geopolitical tensions that are necessarily increasing between the Western world and, of course, some of the places like China, where most of the stuff we actually are processing in our businesses and delivering are produced. What's your view, or even more specifically, how one should plan for what potentially could become a new Cold War, or at least a new tension between the world powers? And of course, how do you think that will impact your business?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mehdi. I think with the geopolitics, I'd like to add the fact that the economy is very uncertain at the moment too, and we're probably moving into a very strong recession which could lead to a bunch of other things outside of the costs going up. So I think, how are we kind of dealing with it, and how are we prepping ourselves? I think with every adversity, taking COVID, taking ocean shipping frenzy over the last 2 years, everything that's hit us negatively has made us stronger. Um, we've been able to be more innovative in the way we provide a solution, and more importantly, we're keeping our ears to the ground and kind of being educated as much as possible in what's coming to us, and in that way, then prepping ourselves in the right way. We have seen as a business, because we're in the business of saving people money and giving them choice, that we become more and more relevant, and our solution becomes more and more relevant as we start to hit crisis. Why is that? Because as costs go up, customers look to try and find ways to save money wherever they can. So we're seeing, for example, fuel prices are jumping at crazy rates at the moment, and one of the key things is that all our carriers are translating those fuel costs into their final costs. And so customers are being hit with a higher charge to deliver a package, in the last 2 or 3 months comparatively to last year. So what we've done is we've started to partner up with people like FlashBox and other vendors who provide us an all-inclusive rate structure. This is a big game changer for our customers in embracing new technology and new carriers, because they're seeing that there is a way out for them without having to spend the money that they would have if they were with the major players or the bigger guys. I think also on top of that, we are closely monitoring our productivity as people within the business, and really trying to find ways of getting more out of the same as what we were before. We don't want to cut corners. We don't want to cut costs. So all through COVID, our business, I probably employed more than 30% more staff, right? So we grew during COVID. However, we also ensured that we always had a contingency plan, and that we were not spending above and beyond what we needed to grab all the growth that was in the market. We wanted to be sustainable, and kind of eat what we could chew, as opposed to sticking food in our mouth that we can't actually digest, and then kind of getting sick, right? So sustainability in growth has been a key criteria for us. And as we see geopolitics across Ukraine and Russia and the rest of the world, and we look at this inflation and recession coming along, for us, it's really key to ensure that we understand what our customers are facing, and try and find ways to ensure that either the solution is innovative, or upfront we're telling them what these changes will look like for their business, so that they can reflect and translate that. And then number three is just being close to it and really understanding what's going on, trying to plan 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. So we tend to do this quite naturally. Every Q3, towards the end of Q3, towards the end of Q2, we start to plan webinars where we're educating our customers on what to expect in Q4. And 2 years ago, when we hit COVID, in the middle of April, I came to the office and I did a whole webinar on what we feel the outlook of COVID will be on businesses, and how to prep yourselves to ensure that you're a winner as opposed to a loser. So we try and look on the bright side as much as possible. And I think these three different tactics that we're using have helped us to really ensure that not only do we grow in the right way, but ensuring that our customers also feel loved and prepared to ensure that they're dealing with these adversities that will be coming our way.
Absolutely. Webinar is actually a great idea. I think, yeah, this proximity with customers is really what will define successful companies. I'm a believer that this nonsensical access to easy money is hopefully over. Although it was good when it lasted, it was really unhealthy, because it put unnecessary pressure on competition in general, right? Outbidding each other for talent, cutting prices by providing subsidies and discounts. That is not how one can create a sustainable business. And of course, with the public markets having already corrected by close to 40%, 30 to 40%, and some companies, as most of the listeners know, have corrected by up to 90%. So, including some of the superstars of the e-commerce space, such as Shopify. So that will have of course, negative impact on some, but I would say longer term, a very positive impact for the industry because it will bring everything back to the ground. Valuations are going to be making a lot more sense, and people will spend money much more smartly. And of course, I think the most important thing, especially for us here, but same as you at eShipper, we're trying to build a sustainable business, not something built on venture capital money. You mentioned, of course, there is the loss of control when one gets investors, but as long as one is aligned with his investors, it works okay. And as long as the money is not used to fund the actual business, but some sort of progression. Um, uh, Thank you so much for your time today, Imtiaz. We've now reached the end of the podcast. Thank you for being our first host, and thank you for sharing your story. Hopefully, we'll have a long and fruitful relationship, eShipper and FlashBox, and good luck with all your endeavors.
Thank you very much, Mehdi. It was a pleasure, and looking forward to doing this in the future more and more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.